Well, I don't know about all of you, but I am on my third cup of coffee this morning. A few birds are out, as are the trash men. You can hear the trash truck, the garbage truck, in the background. But I thought this morning, if you wanted to walk with me, I wanted to show you an area that I promised to show you after I reworked it. And it took me longer to get it done than I thought. So let me show it to you. This, you guys, is Muehlenbeckia. It's also called angel vine or wire vine. I really like it. It is a great cascading plant to put at the base of evergreen pots if you want something as a trailer. But walk with me slowly over here to the area I want to show you. I promised to let you in on my clipping of all of the Boston ivy on the studio, and I still haven't gotten around to it. When I do, I will ask for your help, of course, to follow along. And there is that one double ball boxwood that I clipped a while back. But that's really not what I wanted to show you today. So, one more thing about these baskets, because there are so many new followers, and even though there are questions I've answered before, those of you who have been tagging along for a while, I hope will be patient when I share the same information multiple times, because I have baskets hanging around the garden so that I can just grab one at whim and use them for garden debris or to harvest things, or just basically a stylish way to transport things from here to there. So this is the space I wanted to show you that I reworked, and it looks considerably more tidy than it did before. You'll notice that I'm quite happy to show you that both of the boxwood balls in this area have been nicely pruned. And I love, this is one of those happy tensions of plants. I love the contrast of the boxwood balls with the white and green variegation of the ABELIA. That is, I think that's a Miss Lemon ABELIA from Southern Living. There are so many beautiful ABELIAs out there right now. It is a very underrated plant. It puts out sweet white flowers. The foliage is beautiful. It's very graceful. And I like it in cut flower arrangements too. Practically everything I plant has to be fodder for the vase as well as beauty in the garden. So the tiny little baby gem boxwood in there has been pruned. And this is another Southern Living plant. This is a pancake arborvitae, and I've been amazed how well it's done in this shallow saucer. And because I know you will ask me, this is the top of a bird bath, and I got it at one of our local, for lack of a better word, concrete outlets that sell lots of concrete pots and things. It's called Statuary World. If you're in Oklahoma City, it's on I-35. And they make brilliant saucers because they're large, they're roomy, and they have a huge drainage hole at the bottom because it's where the saucer top would sit on the pedestal bottom. Now I've got in this basket over here, just short term, I've got some scented geraniums. And here is another ABELIA. I believe this is Kaleidoscope. These gunmetal ribbed planters are from Gardener's Supply, and I will put a link below. Oh, I just love that. The way that plants just respond to a gentle breeze. And of course I love the gentle breeze too, because it's already starting to get steamy. And then just this sweet, my favorite color this time of year, that kind of salmon pink from these zonal geraniums that I stocked up on at the beginning of the season. I think they were just from Lowe's in flats for $1 a piece, and I got a bunch of them. To keep them blooming, you really need to feed them a lot. And these get, I think, the perfect amount of sun, not too much and not too little. So I do feed them. I feed a lot of my pots this time of year just with a water-soluble liquid fertilizer. I'm not so concerned about being organic for pots, for things that aren't in the ground, when I just want them to respond immediately and put out flowers. Happily this year, I've not had any budworms on the blooms, which have always plagued me in the past. So I can't knock on wood, so would someone do it for me? Because they might rear their ugly heads a little bit later, but budworms just literally chew the little budlets, putting holes in them, and then they don't flower, or they flower in a distorted way. You can sometimes tell you have budworms because they leave behind their telltale fecal matter, little black droplets. And if you are plagued by budworms, then I would suggest some BT, bacterial thuringiensis dust, or dipple dust, however you pronounce it, or spray. And just sometimes in seasons that I have them, I will just coat the buds preemptively. Now I don't go wild with it, because it's non-selective, so it will also target caterpillars and worms that turn into butterflies. So be careful with it, be very targeted with it. And I used to have over here a yucca, which might return, but for right now I had a triple tier Eugenia Topiary that needed more light, and so I clipped this one and put it in place. It's almost a little bit too tall for this area, but for right now it'll be fine. And there's those angel wing begonias that happily are the color companions to the geranium blooms below. I'm going to do a walking tour where I share with you all about my garden ornaments, obelisks, birdhouses, bird baths, 2 tours, small tables, anything like that are focal points or just basically adorn the garden in a way to draw your eye. And this is a variegated gold Oakland holly. It too is a southern living plant. Another video I'm going to do, requested actually by a friend of mine, she says, I do lots of the things you do. I use gravel, I use boxwood, I use lots of pots, I use plant stands, but for some reason it still doesn't look like yours. So she asked me to come over and go through her garden and point out to her some differences. Now, first of all, there's no bad garden. If you enjoy your garden, you take great joy and pleasure and satisfaction out of it, then that is wonderful. And beauty is subjective. But she specifically asked me to point out things that differed between the look of her garden and the look of mine, so that she could more accurately represent, I guess, the kind of look that I have. So that was really fun. So I pointed out some things to her that she could do, and she seemed really thrilled, and she said, you need to do a video on that. So I'll walk through my garden and point out some common things of how people diverge a little bit from what I do. Again, not that anything's wrong, but just how it looks a little different. And these are things that over time I've learned in my own garden to get what I think is a look that I now think is kind of distinctively mine, though I'm so flattered that so many of you like these ideas and you try to replicate them in your own gardens. So that will be another video along with the garden ornament video. I think of all of these as just little garden tours. And one last thing, everyone, the beauty of a small garden. I often think, oh, I wish I had a larger garden that I could grow all sorts of cut flowers and tons of vegetables and on, being very, I guess, not grateful and satisfied with what I have. So to that I would say, one of the beauties of having a small garden is that you can be so much more exacting and so much more fastidious. And if you're a perfectionist, you can indulge your perfectionist tendencies to such a greater extent than you can when you have a large garden. And I think for somebody like me that likes a certain amount of perfection, just primarily so that I can feel a little bit more in control, I think having a smaller garden versus a larger garden is a better thing. And 2 more upcoming videos I'm going to do. One, I have a real surprise for you. So I'm not even going to tell you what it is, but I do have a surprise for you. And we'll talk about the dimensions of my garden. And let's see, what was the other thing I was going to tell you? I can't remember. But I have all sorts of ideas, and you guys don't seem to tire of seeing the same things over and over again. There's some more of those beautiful pink geraniums. So until we do another walkabout, have a wonderful Tuesday morning. Stay safe, stay well. Try to stay motivated. And I will talk to you again tomorrow.